It's the OCGFAM show. Scott's answering viewer questions.
Hey there! I'm from Oregon's Constant Gardener, trying to talk low so the audio mixes. Welcome to the OCGFAM show. We're doing viewer questions. Scott, what's up?
Hey.
What do you got back there?
I was just seeing who's out in front of my building.
Seeing if they're armed.
If I need to jack some shit up.
So we got questions. Are you ready?
We're going to give it a shot.
All right. Mr. K said, what do you think of Azomite? I've been adding 1 pound to 15-gallon bag with 70-30 cocoa perlite with remineralized RO. I just ordered a meter from you so I can know my water alkalinity. My slurry is stayed at 6.8, 220 to 240 ppm. Feels like I'm doing something right, but looking for your input. So I have a question. So when he says remineralize, what's he talking about there, do you think?
Well, if he's saying remineralizes his RO water, so he must have a RO membrane, some filters, and then like the calcite charger that, you know, adds alkalinity, but there's one for magnesium, there's one, I mean, there's a lot of different RO chargers, so he's probably got a remineralizer for drinking water.
Oh, okay.
For humans, and it's fine for what he's doing, but Azomite would be, you know, a microbial food to your remineralizing cartridge for your water. You're doing the same thing for your potting soil. So being that he's in that cocoa mix, it's not hurting anything. It's not a bad thing to add for sure. At that rate, it shouldn't have very little effect as far as parts per million or anything with the slurries. So, you know, it's a very mild thing to add to put in a lot of trace mineral.
I got you. So, and then the Azomite. What's the story there? What's Azomite?
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. The Azomite is. So when he says remineralized, he's doing something else. But we're not worried about that. That's a side issue.
Well, his thing, he just said 70 to 30 with remineralized RO water. So his RO water has a mineralizing cartridge post the minerals back in. He's adding the 1 pound of Azomite per 15-gallon bag as well, and what do we think of that?
To his soil, or is he to his
cocoa blend? Yeah,
I got you. Okay, so and well, just everyone, what is Azomite?
It's the minerals. It's like Cascade Minerals, Accelerate, Azomite, powdered stone meal. Basically, it's just rock powder clay that's rich in trace minerals.
So it's similar to what
the deposit. It's very similar to what we use as
Accelerate. Okay.
You know, it's just different profiles of different minerals.
But it's still, it's something that's going to make the soil more able to deal with acidity.
Oh, no, it has nothing to do with the soil.
Oh, so this isn't about the alkalinity?
Like magnesium, manganese, boron, you know, it's all the trace minerals that you'd find in a good, healthy nature or natural soil out in the woods. It's just mineral.
So then then his alkalinity is fine to start with probably, and this isn't helping it any. This is just a good way to do the
this isn't really an alkalinity question. This is
okay.
I think of Azomite. It's pretty good. I like Accelerate. Cascade Minerals is really good. You know, there's a lot of trace mineral powders out there.
So if he's using RO and the Azomite is not affecting his alkalinity, do you think that he will have alkalinity problems in the future, or is he?
Potentially, yeah. Yeah, I don't want to open up that gate.
We'll cross that bridge when we come to it.
Right now we're going, oh man, these guys are morons. Now I have to wait. Yeah, no. If he doesn't ask about alkalinity, we're not discussing alkalinity.
Okay, well he said he was going to get the meter halfway through the question. He was getting an alkalinity meter.
Get your meter, test your alkalinity, send us another email. We'll kind of go back and forth. There's a good chance you might need limestone with your Azomite, but right now I have not enough info to tell me.
I understand now.
Yeah.
That makes me understand the question better.
This question was, do I like Azomite?
Yeah.
Good stuff. Used it. Here's a very similar thing to it. But good product.
Jeff Stewart. Move on.
Sorry, Mr. K. Get your meter.
Then we'll talk. You poor bastard.
Yeah. Sorry, rest of you viewers. Thanks for holding on to minute 4.
So Jeff Stewart says, trying to get a handle on using some of the info being presented regarding water and alkalinity. I use RO due to poor water quality in the municipal system. Just prepared some mix with garden lime incorporated into it. Wasn't exactly sure on application rate to use. 6 ounces to 20 gallons referenced in the pig farmer video was my starting point. Should I be introducing carbonated water to react with the calcium carbonate in my feeds? Had been using the Olympus Up to raise the pH, then carbonated water to lower it in my feeds last cycle with decent results. Will pH solution be enough to react with the lime without additional inputs?
I mean, ideally. So if you're, the hard part right now is and there's a lot of questions out there from everybody looking at, I need these charts to tell me when and what and how much garden lime or calcium carbonate or limestone that we need to be adding to our mixes to kind of combat defective water or broken water or RO water, the things that are ripping the alkalinity and the pH from our potting soils. Like what he said, everything he's doing is all beneficial for what he's doing.
Right.
I think the 6 ounces per 20 gallons, we're finding even with pig right now that 1 cup per 10 gallons for people who are naturally going acidic during the bloom stage. So if you're in the second week of bloom and your soil pH slurries are 6.0 or less, then we know that your soil and your water has a tendency to want to go to the acidic side. So knowing that, by adding 1 cup of garden lime, limestone, calcium carbonate, not dolomite, not gypsum, so garden lime, which is from down to earth, that's what they call it, is garden
lime. Okay, and that's 8 ounces?
Limestone.
8 ounces, 1 cup?
1 cup is 8 ounces. So he could, right now, he's probably totally fine. He's probably having no issues with that. The only thing he might see is at the very end of an 8 to 10 week crop, he might be tailing off on the pH again, but, maintain your 6 ounces. In about week 4 of bloom, do another slurry and monitor what your pH is at that time to see if indeed you need to add some more or if your 6 ounces is going to carry you all the way out. That 6 ounces, there is no magic amount of how many ounces per gallon, and only because everybody's water system's so different that, if you put it 8 ounces and you're using RO water through an old membrane that's still getting alkalinity through the membrane because the membrane's full, then that might be too much. If your RO is brand new and fresh and your potting soil and you're really aggressively feeding, you might find that you need more because you're feeding them more aggressively, stripping more of the alkalinity out of the soil. So here's the deal with alkalinity in the soil. If I don't have any issues and I put in like the CalPro we talk about, which is a pelleted limestone or calcite. It's a chunk of rock, not a fine powder. It's not a soluble mineral at all. It's a rock. So as it sits in your soil, if your water isn't acidic and nothing's breaking it down, it just sits there as a drain.
Doing nothing.
No.
It's just a mechanical drain for your...
Yeah. If your water's 8.5 and your pH and everything down to 6.4, but the Olympus Up is building the alkalinity from that pH adjustment, everything in that soil that you've added in the carbonate state, sorry.
All right.
Real business.
This is real business. I know, I'm kidding you. Stuff that could lose you money.
No. Some days with you are, as it's sitting in the soil, not being dissolved by the acidic water, it just sits there. It's not going to affect the pH. It's not going to spike you out from nowhere. It's not going to add parts per million. It's just a rock in your soil at that point. Kind of like the azomite. It's just a mineral in the soil. Once your water is broken or unconditioned or non-alkaline or acidic, it'll start drawing off of that limestone, making that limestone more available to the plant in the form of bicarbonate, and then reducing the presence of that limestone in the soil in the long term would cause acidity. So the trick is, there's no chart we can make right now that will tell you exactly. We are working on a very simple, if you have RO water and your pH does this, this is what you would like to do. If you have distilled water and your pH does this, or, we have a few more questions coming up in this episode about, my tap water's decent, but it's a little high in parts per million, but the alkalinity's great, and my RO water has no alkalinity with 0 parts per million. can I blend those two? And we're finding a lot of guys are getting through their entire grow by taking their not perfect water and blending it with RO water, and then getting 75 parts per million of alkalinity, 109 parts per million of whatever the total dissolved solids are in that solution, creating their own recipe of water, so they don't need to use so much limestone, or they don't need to buy a calcite charger, or they don't need a CO2 reactor, because we can kind of custom build your water and then custom build your soil to balance all of it. So for everybody asking the question today, what do I need to go out and get? And I guess we're probably just delving into other questions now, but well, yeah, we'll get to that.
Well, I have a few questions. So, your soils, if you fortify your soil and it's gassed, it's like your car's in the garage gassed up. It's not going to use any of that gas till you take it out. But when you take it out and start using it, it starts going through the gas, and you have to replenish that. So you would want to have your soil fortified, because it's not gonna matter one way or the other, and if you don't have a problem, it's not going to hurt anything. And then you try to modulate your water to get it to where it works to not tear up that soil. If that makes sense. And so,
yeah, I mean, generally,
yeah. So how do I see with that? Just with the alkalinity test of my soil? What am I doing to know if I'm getting into trouble?
Slurries, and if you're not doing slurries, you're blinking your eyes too fast. You're not seeing the step down, and the problem is everybody will do, well, not everybody. I've had a lot of people just in this last month, since we've been working on these alkalinity shows again, saying, well, I didn't do my slurry test for 3 weeks, and that happened to be the last 2 weeks of veg and the first week of bloom, and then bam, they're at 5.9, and they wonder how they got there.
You didn't see it moving down. You didn't see the movement.
You're at 6.4 in veg, 6.4 in veg, then the last week of veg you're at 6.3. Okay, well, here's a tendency. Then you're at the end of week 1 and you're at 6. Yeah, now you're going to see that you have no alkalinity left, so the pH is going to plummet because they've stripped all the calcium out of your soil, calcium carbonate out of your soil, so it's due to be replenished. Our 4-shot coming out will have all of that built in, so no matter where you are, just shy of like Hard Water USA east side of Michigan, they probably won't like my 4-shot, but everybody else in the country is going to love it, because they don't have to add in the alkalinity pack. They don't have to add in the limestone. We put limestone, we put oyster shell, we put micronolime all into number 4, and it works pretty good until the RO guys get a hold of it, and then we see more and more of the acidic side, or the distilled, or the rainwater. But the people on tap water that are doing well are usually in good alkaline water sources that aren't stripping it from the potting mix. And being that we are calcium driven as a nutrient line, that's also drawing it up, because we're preserving things with the acidic nature. Our low pHs are going in, and that's breaking down the alkalinity, because we want that alkalinity to drive this nutrient force into this plant. So the key is knowing what's coming out. Not everybody has the same problem when it comes to pH in the soil, when it occurs, or how bad it gets. But anybody who's ever struggled with low pH on all the growers groups and all the communities, the simple answer is, okay, well, if you are going from here to here and you're going into flower, and you know that the second week you're always battling pH, put in a cup per 10 gallons, and that will bypass that whole problem. You won't skip a beat. Then, depending on how aggressive you feed and how intense you're pumping in the Herc and the Circes or whatever you're pumping in, that may slightly affect your pH if you're super aggressive. But that's why a weekly slurry is so important, because if you're at 6.6, 6.6, 6.5, 6.6, 6.4, 6.3, and you're in week 7, okay, well, now do I want to put in a whole bunch more limestone? Or do I want to do the carbonated water Olympus up trick, which will get you the same effect of keeping the pH where it needs to be, but you're not trying to rebuild the whole soil? Right now, the problem is so many people are like, well, I'm running into this problem in week 1, so I'm raising my pH up, just like, we have that David Miner. Great guy. He was the one that really turned me on to the carbonated water trick for pH alkalinity. I was like, he has a couple videos up. Yeah, you've seen this video.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Great guy. And he did all that just sitting at his kitchen table, and it made a lot of sense. So I've been giving that out to a lot of people that are in week 5, and they're having a bad pH issue, and they're limping to the end. But my answer to them is, here's your answer to get you through this round. Next round, go get the garden lime or the limestone.
Okay.
And prevent all of this. This isn't your trick. This isn't like Nectar's new way of feeding calcium to plants by jacking up the pH and then dropping it with carbonated water. It works amazing, but it's not our goal. Our goal is to build that soil so you do not have to go through the battle of triggering your pH so high and then so low with, Perrier water or a soda stream. They're handy, but it's not economical for the big picture.
I got you.
And we can fix it all with limestone. It's really just limestone. And, a lot of people are like, oh, put the oyster shell in it. Oyster shell is great. We use it as well. Now, you have to remember, oyster shell comes from the ocean. Oyster shell has a parts per million load that is a mineral that's coming from salt water.
Sure.
And oyster shell right now, because of COVID, is almost a rare substance, so it's really becoming more expensive, harder to find, and a lot less people are carrying it, so it's becoming a lost product in the field. Limestone is every damn mountain from here to Michigan, and it's never going away. It's in every bit of soil, and it doesn't become active unless your pH makes it active. It doesn't release a parts per million, it doesn't release a salt, it's not raising your ppms in your soil. It just maintains as a rock until acids break them down.
So, if you don't do your slurry for 3 weeks, is that slurry suspect? Because it could just be a random number. You need to be doing it consistently to know when you're...
If I haven't done it 3 weeks, like if I literally just dropped the ball for a month or so, I'll do one on Monday, one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. I want to know what's my average now because... And I mean, I've even done it. If you take it out of like... this part of the pot versus this part of the pot. Some days it's like, well, there's a hot pocket because this has been hydrophobic for 3 weeks, has had no moisture or nutrients, and it's just storing everything there. Where over here it's getting flushed, fed, watered, so this could be 250 parts per million, this could be 800. So if I get a weird reading, I'll even take a second one right then and there.
Okay.
I pulled a hot pocket, that's stupid.
Because you're looking for a trend more so than an absolute number.
There is no absolute number, and I mean, there is none. There's no absolute. Yeah. No matter what you do, I send the same lab report in 15 times, and I'll get 15 minutely different labs.
So if I get to the end of the process and I'm starting to fade away at the end when I'm flushing, is the pH still important the last couple of weeks?
Well, still arguable. I mean, I think for folks who are really trying to fine-tune terpene profiles, sweetness of flavor, smoothness of smoke, enhancement of colors, I think there's still a huge piece to it. But then again, at that point, Olympus up in carbonated water is going to get you that same effect without worrying so hard about my 6.1 pH in my soil anymore. And you're fortifying your soil at this point. Is it going to be available to it if you're late in the game too? You got to do this up front, right? I mean, that's where it comes from. It comes down. Ideally, yeah, it's all preventative, and it's called building soil structure. It's soil tilt. It's making this a medium where it's habitable till the end. It shouldn't need reamendment. Really, with limestone, reamending mid-flower is not your best bet because it takes 5 to 10 days for it to activate, become available. Triggering it, you can kind of speed it up with the carbonated water. But I'm not a fan of the carbonated water to break down calcium in the soil because it's CO2, it's carbonic acid, it's not oxygen. It can literally suffocate things like mycorrhiza fields or a lot of your trichodermas, your bacteria living in there need oxygen to survive. If I'm watering carbonated water into my potting soil to correct these issues, then I'm choking out my life in my soil as well. So I'm not a big fan of like, when you pH it down, the carbonation's reacting with the feed. By the time you're actually watering it in, the CO2's gone and reacted, and it's already converted the carbonates to bicarbonate, so it's not so much of an issue. If your carbonates are too high in the soil, or your pH is too high in the soil, and you water in the CO2 water, it'll work. It'll help reduce the alkaline or the pH. However, you are putting in no oxygen into that water system.
So the carbonated water situation is for an emergency, an expedient, not a long-term solution.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your feeding will do that. You do it for your feeds to get you to that end, and then the next run, you build it in because you know it's going to happen to you.
Okay. Chris Nagel, if you use RO water, distilled or spring water, what would you add to it for seedling
veg, and flower. Also, what ppms for each stage would be great to know. So spring water, you feel like is the same as distilled in RO?
No.
No.
I mean, spring water comes out of them.
We don't know what it is with spring water, right? Could be anything.
Your spring, there's salt springs here. There's carbonate springs, calcium-rich springs.
So let's say RO and distilled, and keep spring water out of the equation. What would you do? What would you add there? And would you do that different with different stages?
Well, what I would do is like a really mild liquid calcium, like Demeters, and a little mild amino acids for cell structures, cell block structures. So between maybe a half a teaspoon to a teaspoon of Demeters and the same of Athenas. And because if you're in brand new potting soil, there should be alkalinity built into that.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about stripping alkalinity out of the first 3 weeks of growth because there's enough built into most potting soils to at least get you a few months out. So
are you talking about doing those as part of my feed mixture or beforehand or what?
I mean, I hate our feeding schedule on it. The seedling thing to me is like 5 sets of leaves. That's a seedling to me. When it just sprouts and you're on the second or third set of real leaves,
nothing.
I mean, the humus in the soil will keep that thing alive. The seed coat that it came from had more nutrition in it to keep it alive for that first couple weeks.
It's gassed up for whatever it needs until it gets to be a plant.
Yeah. It's got a reserve, and really what I like is foliar feeding, like the amino acids and a very nitrogen protein. Doing foliar feeds in those early stages stimulate more growth than a watering, because they only have like 4 little tiny roots at that stage. They're not eating much anyway, so I usually let the potting soil do its work on a seedling, and then as soon as I get 4 or 5 true sets of leaves, then move on to feeding.
So a while back we talked about maybe using full-on if you were using RO water, not in context of the alkalinity thing, but just putting some minerals back in there because it's kind of dead water. Would you fortify your water with some minerals like that, or do you think you're getting what you need from your feed mixture that you're putting in there?
Oh, if you're using Nectar bottles on like a regular feeding, you're getting all that.
Yeah, it's all there.
No question. Full on definitely helps for if you just want to water and put in something so your water's not just. Because if your RO comes out at 7.0 and it sits in your reservoir at 7.0 and you add anything to it, it's going to react to that pH and become 5 or 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
So 7.0 with full on in it could be 6.1.
And we're already going to drop down, and so we're putting ourselves where we're dumping tons of Olympus up in there needlessly to get something that is contained in.
Yeah.
I got you. Okay. So,
and as far as the parts per million, is he asking like? I get that question a lot. Like, what should my parts per million be of my nutrients in the 3rd week of flower? And we don't have answers for that because it's not.
Doesn't work that way.
We're not based. Yeah, I mean, are you talking the 4-part, 6-part, 8-part, 15-part, or 17-part line? Because if you're at 17 at Roman, you could be at 3,200 parts per million. And if you're at the basic at week 3, you might be at 750. So it comes down to do your slurries. Your slurries will be your key for your genetics, your environment, your lighting, your room, your plants.
Yeah. So the water itself, if it's RO or distilled, it has 0 parts per million as water, right? Should. So, and this is where. So I felt like he was talking about ppms in the water because he mentioned the spring water, but we're taking spring water as a different thing entirely. And is that a much larger conversation of spring water that's not within the what we're talking about here?
Yeah. Springs just around a 100-mile radius from where I stand right now. I know of about 20 different springs that will all have completely different water sources.
So maybe next time we make this show an RO show, and then we do something about if you have spring water, how you might deal with that. Next time around? Okay.
Yeah, and that's it. I do a lot of personal answers of questions because spring water can be so vastly different. And anywhere, I mean, there's springs down in Cottage Grove that come right out of a mercury mine. Probably wouldn't be using that spring water. I mean, your plants would probably grow amazingly dark green. I don't think you should use that water.
This water tastes delicious, and it's good for my plants. Tobacco.
Now, I put your face in every time I see you. I had a
free water
that literally went batshit crazy over the water, and when we finally found out where his farm was, he had no idea. He was just below Cottage Grove Dam. Did you know at the Cottage Grove Dam, they send a diving team down there every few years to just vacuum out like a 3 to 4 foot mercury.
Because it's so heavy, it's just like a little lake.
It just sits down at the bottom of the dam, but that whole mountain behind it used to be a mercury mine that they would bring out mercury for, you know, the medical industry. Mercury is an impressive material.
Oh, it's something else.
It's insane.
I mean, yeah, it's an amazing. That, you know, they use that on the felt on hats. That's why they say Mad Hatter.
Oh, yeah.
The guys that made hats in England were all nuts because they take it to condition the felt.
And the old golf course superintendents, that's how they kept the greens super short, because they'd spray mercury or to arrest the growth. Everything would get really short and super fat, so it made mowing the lawn or the greens much better. They don't have jobs anymore. A lot of them died of cancer.
So they got that going for them. Former greenskeeper. Now in the insane asylum. Okay, wowza. East Coast here, and my water is city water. It's so hard you cannot get soap to lather. We had a softener and charcoal filter. pH is 8.1 at 120 parts per million. We moved here a year ago, and I'm now on my 3rd grow. First sucked, second got better, but I was buying spring water at the store. I got an RO system, and I'm mixing 50-50 with my softened, filtered tap water. Scott's thoughts on my water and what to watch out for would be a blessing. Now, is the softener always a no-go? I mean, wouldn't you just take the water clean and put it through a Brita filter or something to get any kind of contaminants out of it, or what would you do?
Yeah, well, exactly. You're better off just putting it through a Brita.
Yeah.
But even then, the hard part is so many people, like my house, I have a well, and all my water comes up because it's super hard, and it goes through a water softener, which is sodium carbonate.
Yeah, it's salt. And so it's adding ppms like crazy to your grow that's taking everything out of whack.
Yeah, that's why your first one sucks, is because half of your parts per million are coming from just pure sodium out of the water softener. And a lot of people that use sodium bicarbonate as a alkalinity builder are they get themselves in the corner of burning their plants severely bad, because it's literally like chloride. I mean, it's not a good salt to be using. So the downfall there is like RO would work. That it would be RO for Wowza would probably be your best bet, or distilled. But who can afford the? I mean, if you have a large grow, distilling that much water is expensive.
Does your plant care about hard water?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So the downfall of hard water, if he could bypass the softener with the hardness, then I would be mixing it half and half with hard water, because you got all this great stuff that's built in your hard water.
Yeah.
You're softening it with salts, so that's bad. So if you can bypass that, you still have all that calcium carbonate that's built into that water that's making it hard, and then using that in with the food. Well, you probably never use Olympus Up again, because our food will make your alkalinity increase with that 8.1 pH by reducing the limestone that's active in the water. But you have to bypass that softener.
Would you try to drop your pH a little more so you could get a little Olympus Up in there, or would you be just putting your stuff in the soil, your microna in the soil? Okay.
So the whole point of Olympus Up is so that people have to add alkalinity. They just, I got to raise my pH back up to 6.4. The great thing is that 6.4, the excess limestone that's sitting in Olympus is releasing itself as alkalinity. Mm-hmm. And in the potting soil, if it's not absorbed, anything that's left over in a chunk limestone will then react as alkalinity in the potting soil. So if you have mildly acidic water, the Olympus Up is awesome, because it's fixing your pH of your feed and building alkalinity in the soil as a reserve. But if you have RO water or distilled water, you have zero reserves. It's stripping all of it out and using every bit of it out of the Olympus Up.
So
there's just not a lot left over.
You'd get some garden lime in your soil, and you'd go 50-50 RO and previous to your filters water out of your thing.
If you can't bypass your softener, then I go
straight RO.
Distilled, or go to your friend's house and get some tap. But you have to bypass the water softener.
Well, he has an RO system, so if he just takes a straight RO, he can mix that with his bypassed, or just go straight RO if he can't mix it, if he can't get before his filter.
Yeah, I would not. I mean, I think ultimately you're still going to run into parts per million problems, even though your pH and your alkalinity are fine. You're going to run into another problem,
because there's still stuff in there.
Well, I have one grower right now, alkalinity 90 parts per million. Everything looks great. His pH in the soil is 6.5. His parts per million are 1,800. He has a water softener.
Okay, but if he got the water just coming out of the tap before the water softener, you feel this guy would still have issues?
No, at 120 parts per million, whatever's coming out of that, the charcoal's not taking out parts per million.
Right. Okay.
The water softener is adding that 120.
Oh, so he's probably
that his 8.1 could just be high pH calcium limestone.
So his water might be fine for growing his plants, assuming it's not having contaminants, icky stuff in it. So maybe you just, if he had a water filter, you get from the hose out in the yard, is that not attached to the RO? I mean, there must be some way to,
Mine isn't. So all my lawn or my field stuff is all bypassed, and everything that goes into the house goes through
I got you. Okay.
So the garden only gets watered from the water that
you're not going to RO water it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Easy to slip. Soil amendments to address pH drift that can happen in flower. Is there something that I should be adding to my soil, number 4 mix from the beginning, keeping everything stable in flower? Or should I top dress before flower with some amendment? Garden lime, can someone send a link to an example of the appropriate product or the other soil amendment? So, is flower causing this, or is it just that you finally got to that you've ran out at that point? By that point,
I think more than not, it's because it ran out for time.
Yeah.
Because also, at the beginning of the feed schedule in veg, it's this much, and then mid, and then late, and then flower, and then flower. So the more food we're throwing at it, the more acids we're throwing at it, the more we're going to reduce our reserve. And really, if it's a consistent issue, then we know your water has issues, so we can combat all of that by. And in his case, I would do it the week before you go into bloom, knowing that in the second week we're always trying to catch back up.
Yeah.
Just put it in before you flip, and then you won't ever have that issue.
If you knew you had a problem where you were trying to be better safe than sorry, would you put in 10 ounces at the start and 10 ounces in flour of the?
No. Because anything that can be, like, let's say I'm using Calpril.
Yeah.
That has a lignin binder to it, so it's a bacteria food. If I put in 10 ounces in veg, when I kind of need that lower pH anyway, because that's where those NPKs are available.
Yeah.
Now I've gone too high, so my veg slows down because the pH is trying to get too high because of the powder and the soluble forms of that limestone. As that goes away and it's just built in there, I think 10 cups from start to finish would be
10 ounces.
That's it. That's all you need.
So you put in like 10 ounces at the start, and you're good all the way through. You wouldn't readdress at the midpoint.
No. I mean, that's what we're doing now. Is that basically you're getting about 8 ounces per 10 gallons in a bag of 4-shot, and that's from about 5 runs of pig farms attacking it with low alkalinity water. So we're still ending up at 6.8 at the very end of flush.
Would you consider, or have you thought, would you remix number 4 with more lime? Or,
Absolutely.
So you'd make a number 5 or whatever? Have you thought about?
No, you mean as far as
the soil? Would you make a different batch of soil yourself? Nectar for the gods.
No, because then all we're doing is making number 4 with more limestone for 50% of the clients that need it.
So you wouldn't do this unless you need to.
Exactly. And like a lot of people don't need to, and so I think a lot of guys that want this, this Chimera's Cure, this the new alkalinity pack we're working on, which is it's in registration. We're getting the lab work done. It's great stuff, but it's not going to be like for every single person that's growing indoors.
So
if your water's good and your alkalinity's fine and your pH doesn't drift, this isn't a problem for you, so you don't need this product. This product's going to be primarily limestone. There's a very fraction of dolomitic lime. So when you buy Chimera from us, it's because your pH is at 5.7. You're in the second week of bloom, and you need to get back on track before the end of week 3.
So you go ahead.
Chimera has a very small percentage of dolomite lime, which I tell people, don't go out and cure this problem with dolomitic lime because it doesn't have the longevity and the long-term alkalinity release. Dolomitic lime goes magnesium and gone. So when we see all these issues on all the Facebook groups and all online and everybody's CalMag this, CalMag that, or We put in a little bit of dolomitic lime at the very beginning. It releases, it greens them up, it gives them the pH jump, and then the alkalinity comes in behind it with all the limestone that's in Chimera, and it slowly dissolves throughout the rest of the round, so your pH won't drift back down once the dolomite gets it up. Then we have the accelerate or the, azomite mineral powder in there, and lignin and molasses, and the porcine bone meal and the cow bone meal. So it's really designed to give you some phosphorus for the feeding of the roots, phosphorus for the feeding of the flowers, and for the phosphorus-fixing microbes. It's a great food source for them. You have the front punch of a high pH dolomitic lime, which is going to be a pH spike, but then it's soluble, so it washes away faster. But it's enough to get our pH to a correction spot, offering a little tiny bit of magnesium for the plant to absorb to green back up, and then the alkalinity from limestone will start to dissolve, become a bicarbonate, and the plants can then use that, and then we shouldn't see that reduction again for that round of the grow.
So if someone is rock solid pH all the way through, you're fine.
Yeah.
If you see your pH drift, then you do some sort of corrective thing with the carbonated water and that kind of thing, and next time around, you'd use the garden lime at this point, the Chimera, when that comes out.
Yep.
That's the solution. Okay. I mean, I mean, it's more complicated than that, but that's the simplest part of it.
Well, that's about as simple. And then, you look around, because I get this question a lot, and I'm just trying to find an image of this. So all around the country, it's hard to find one brand that's going to have calcium, bicarbonate, limestone in every single garden shop, because it's such a cheap material. There's no reason why there's not a million people that make this stuff.
Yeah.
It's all from the same mines and stuff. So I know Down to Earth well. Used to work for them.
Yeah.
Great people, great company. And I know that they're distributed from themselves and through all the major distributors in the industry. So when people ask, which garden lime should I get? And they send me gypsum, they send me dolomite, they send me all these different limes. And it's like, this is the one you want to get for now.
And you can get that at OCGFAM.com, correct?
I believe they have it online. You can get it. Every single garden center out there can get this from 50 different distributors.
If they don't have it, they can get it. And you're doing them a favor asking them for it.
This is the one. So when you're asking me, if it's not pink and purple on there, or fuchsia, or whatever the hell color this is, don't buy their... This is not the one. Not the one. Don't buy this one, and don't buy this one. This one's close to the same color, but you don't want to buy it.
No.
It says not dolomite, or not gypsum. Don't buy gypsum. That's
Okay.
sulfur. So that's the amendment you'll want. You can go get oyster shell. Just know that your parts per million are going to go up because of the sodium that can be in oyster shell. We like oyster shell. There's a lot of benefits to it. Sea salt has a lot of trace minerals, kind of like Accelerate.
Yeah, it's great stuff, yeah.
It's good, but it will skew your parts per million and make you scratch your head as to why. And if you don't need it...
Don't do it.
Well, I mean, if the plants aren't going to... If the soil doesn't need the fixing, then the limestone just sits there as a stone. If it needs fixing, the limestone will dissolve and make itself available to fix the problem.
Okay. Now this, I don't know about this one. Buds McKenzie. It's a long, I'm just going to read you the first part of it. He says, maybe it would be a good idea for U to come up with a water scale showing a ppm pH range so customers can figure out if they need RO water. We kind of covered that, but that's... Is it not so much the water as the results you see of the pH drifting, then you know you have a problem. It doesn't matter what your water is.
Well, that's the hard part, because that list would look longer than...
It would be every water in the country. We have to survey.
Tough, because there's so many variables that could play. And, I think what we're trying to do right now is we're sitting down with a handful of people, kind of coming up with a very general, basic, you need RO if you can't get away from, softened water through well salts. You need RO if your parts per million are above 450 coming out of your tap and you can't explain the brown hue, But if you can avoid using RO, it's amazing because we can get so much more natural components out of water from non-RO water, and the waste is a lot less because RO does waste a considerable amount of water in its filtration. So I don't want everybody to run out and get RO or distilled water because I don't think that's the answer most times. And more times than not, just by having that conversation of what's your water source, how are the parts per million, what's the natural pH, and then, hey, you know what? Blend your RO to the well. Blend your RO to your tap. Blend your RO to, make your own concoctions of water to find out what's your sweet spot there. A lot of people gripe about the alkalinity meter. I agree. Most of you need it once. You probably don't need to buy the meter. It'd be great if they could just come to your house and give you a quick test. It's not going to happen. But, you can buy fish tank strips for freshwater alkalinity. It's like $10 for 50 tests.
Okay.
It's a pool tester that you kind of look at and it tells you 40, 60, 60, 80.
Close enough.
I don't care if it's 89 or 94. It's in this range, which means we're in a good spot.
So you'd probably say that would be a good solution.
Get yourself some testing equipment and make some batches. I have guys that are doing full-blown RO water and veg because they want to release all the alkalinity. They want to do all the aggression of feeding at lower pH. Week before they go into bloom, hit it with the dolomite lime, put a ton of calprol in there, gets all their pHs back into the mid-6s, and they feed them super hard all the way through bloom, and they end up at 6.6.
But that's a live man strategy. That's not a starting. That's
not like, hey, Jim, you're learning how to grow plants. Don't do this because you're screwed. But like pig or I've got a few farmers that are just like so intense on. My food is something I make. Their water is something that they're making, and that's a combination. I always go back to that one grower, Thug Pug.
Yeah.
So, Thug's like, oh, maybe I want this bloom pack. I'm like, I don't. I would love for you to play with it, but you're going to have to move to Indiana first because your water already is this bloom pack minus the dead pig and cow in the water. Outside of that, everything that you do in your water is what the Chimera is going to be.
It's already there.
So it's not going to be for everybody. If you're killing it right now and you have no pH issues and you can't feed them enough, just keep on walking. Put some one-shot in your soil to help you out. But the Chimera is not going to be your answer.
So there are not machines for consumers to make distilled water. Am I correct about that? I mean, why would you do RO over distilled?
Energy.
It's much.
You have to.
It's a much more okay.
Make it.
The RO is a filtering process.
Yeah.
I got
you. It's a huge process. RO is just filtration.
As opposed to boiling the water.
It's highly scientific, but it definitely strips everything out. And then we'll go back to that real fast because I don't think I really nailed it. But let's say that's 8.1. Good chance that's a high alkaline water with that pH.
Yeah.
Even if you go through an RO system, here's your nightmare. And we just dealt with this with a big farm down in Southern Oregon. He's been crushing it for 2 years, killing it. Wow, what an amazing farm. And then all of a sudden, his yield just drops. Like, over 2 crops, he went from his expected number to about maybe 3/4 to 70% of what he's used to.
It's a problem.
That's a problem when you're a big farm.
Yeah, selling by the pound.
That doesn't look good. I get a little nervous because I don't want to drop fish like that out of my boat because that's a big fish. So, luckily, also friends with pig. That's a great thing. So pig's on the opposite end. All his stuff's going to sit in. This farm, we did all their slurries and finally found out that their water in mid-bloom's coming, or their soil's coming back at 7.7.
Oh, wow.
So we do an alkalinity test on their water, and their alkalinity is 250 parts per million out of the well. That's the alkalinity. Their well water is stunning. Gorgeous. Drinkable water, just like this shit. You can't get cancer drinking their water. It would kill cancer with contact. It's so alkaline. They put it all through an RO system because of the parts per million. The downfall is it was working great with just a little bit of alkalinity getting past the RO system, and then they're watering. Well, all of a sudden, the membrane fills up, the filters all fill up. He doesn't know it because limestone generally is going to be white, so all his filters are stunningly white, beautiful filters. It was bypassing. They were so full. Well, everybody who buys RO systems should take their brand new things and weigh them. and then take them back in 3 months and weigh them again, because
it looks the same, but it's way heavier.
Yeah, well, when you fill that thing up with calcium carbonate, that's rock. That thing is going to weigh, his was 4 times the original weight, completely filled with rock.
So if he just lifted that thing up, he would have been, it's not clean, it's just white.
And then as soon as he put a new membrane, new filters, and a new system in there, right back to normal, didn't skip a beat.
Oh, okay.
And so all we did was just do a crap ton of Gaia flushes at 5-7, just to add nutrition back into the soil, reduce that ppm, hydrolyze the alkalinity to convert that, and then once they got into even the 6-9 range, all the uptake started happening again, and they just went right back to town. So all things fixed, only 2 crops really hurt by the weight. Quality stayed. I mean, the nice thing about alkaline water is you still got the freaking high quality, you just get no yield.
So you see smaller flower or less flower? Just
a little bit of
both.
I mean,
okay. It's just the plant's just not as strong, and it's just not killing it, but it's the taste the same.
Yeah, just weak.
Oh, wow. Okay. So you got time for a couple general questions?
Sure.
Okay. Georgia Webb. Would it hurt to use a little Herculean harvest on brand new seedlings that just popped? Yeah?
I mean, it shouldn't, but I would go super light, and I'm not a fan. Usually, the amazing thing about creation is that little seed is a suitcase of food. And the whole coat is just loaded with minerals and enzymes and vitamins, and it's there for a reason. It's part of the creation of this plant. And as that thing sprouts, this seed coat is literally cracked open and starts leaching, and the plant can actually consume, or the seedling can consume those trace minerals and all those elements out of there while it's sending down its taproot and then out its feeders. If you're going to do any feeding at that point, I mean, we're talking trace amounts, and I wouldn't give them any NP and K. It'd be like amino acids and calcium. So, Herc, maybe a half a teaspoon per gallon, a teaspoon per gallon as just a gentle water conditioning to get something into the soil. But if you're using a good potting soil, there should be enough naturally occurring nutrition in the potting soil to carry them until you get to like 3 or 4 real sets of leaves, then start feeding them anything. I'm not a fan of feeding baby plants.
Well,
they don't need it.
It's a part of our health problem is that we eat seeds now instead of leaves. And so we're getting all that energy from those. It's gassed up, ready to go to do this whole thing. And it's not, it doesn't really, you may be subverting the process by feeding it, potentially.
Yeah, I mean, and rarely do you get to see a growth benefit from it. If your roots are this and a tiny seedling, it's just like 3 little roots, and you saturate the whole cup. They're not eating all of it. They only have 3 little feet out there, so they're not really trying to consume that. Your best bet is like a very mild hydration foliar feed with some seaweed, some fulvic acid, maybe aminos, and foliar feeding those babies as they're sprouting. That gives the tops all the nutrition they need. They can assimilate it right away. They can help develop faster root systems, but you're not drenching the root zone in the potential of overfeeding a root tip that can't handle the heat yet.
Well, this thing was designed to fall on hard ground and take root. Exactly. we're babying in this whole thing. So you would take care of the leaves, but not the seed.
Yeah, not the seed. Somebody else created that, and it's done a pretty good job at, making sure that they can survive past humans. We are the only ones that really screw shit up, so, I mean...
They do just fine on their own.
The biggest leech on the planet, these guys, and guess what? The rest of the world's going to do just fine. I mean, they'll probably be thankful when we're all erased.
Just leave us alone. Yeah, the Earth's going to be fine. Environmentalists, don't worry about the Earth. Worry about us. It's going to be fine.
Don't worry about the Earth at all. None of that's the problem. The problem is that we are the problem. Idiots.
Oh, jeez. Okay, Curly Magoo. Does y'all Herc change consistency or color? This one I have now just seems really thin compared to previous gallons. Love what y'all do. Glad you're back. Ready to learn. Stay blessed and stay breezy. I did the accent myself. I don't know what Curly Magoo talks like. He just said y'all. It got me going.
I sure like the name.
I do too. So, did he just not shake it good enough, or does it vary from time to time?
Oh, it can everything.
It's a natural product.
There could be a big chunks in the bottom, but bone meal in general, I mean, you got to remember, these comes from giant vats of stock.
Yeah.
So the variance does happen. We've had tan-colored finished product come out. We've had pure white. Generally, it's like an off-white creaminess.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
A lot of times the thickness is because it wasn't blended up completely well. There's still some solids on the bottom. And then every batch, just so everyone's aware, it's kind of the lottery in a sense.
Uh-huh.
First off, you're not lacking any nutrition. I mean,
it's all there. Yeah.
Yeah, the digest is the digest. Anything that's thick is going to be the gum that we use in the digest, just to keep it from falling out of the bottom of the pot.
Mm.
The gum is the same color, and that stays consistency, but the digest of the bone can be anywhere from a clear water to a tan water, and it really comes down to, did we get this one from the steamers? Did we get this one from the cookers? Did we, if they burn the bone, it comes in a totally different color. If they didn't cook it long enough, we get different proteins, different whites. So all of our stuff, it's not a salt and it's not a synthetic bag. So the variances come from farm to farm, cow to cow, brand to brand. There will be variances there.
So, but the calcium, the nutrition remains the same. It just looks different.
Yeah, and then also what I was about to say about all the products the same because the liquid is what we measure, not the solids. When we're bottling these 8 to 10,000 gallon tanks and trying to keep 10,000 gallon, you guys think it's hard to shake your 5 gallon? Yeah, we got 10,000 gallon tank that we're shaking the bottle on. So some bottles might get more gum than other bottles.
I gotcha.
The gum isn't the food. The gum is the emulsifier. So we see towards the end of a bottling run, and we bottle in the day. So it's not like, well, that takes from Tuesday's bottling on January.
Yeah.
They're all done today, but the very last bottles start to get more gum, more of the settling stuff in it, and then we cut off every one at about 400 gallons. We then put those in shuttles and we reblend those into the next batch because they're so thick that if we sent those out, we've had more complaints with the last 10 5-gallon buckets that we bottle because they're like cement. So we cut off everything about 250 to 400 gallons depending on how the flow is going. The colder it is, the more we shuttle. The warmer it is, the more it flows and stays suspended. So this time of year, we have extra shuttles being blended into the next batch of digest. It keeps everything, it's kind of like a yeast at that point. We know that the same batch is just continuously, autonomously blending for eternity. But no, there will be variances with most things we make. Olympus up, same thing. Even with limestone, we've got batches that come in more tan than white. And it's just a batch.
But nothing needs to be done by the grower differently. It's the same. It functions the same. It just looks different or feels different.
No, and when I see that, I'll often get like a stick and really get into the corners of my pot.
Oh, there might be some chunks down there. You got to
break it free. And,
I gotcha.
And a lot of times, if you buy from a supplier that isn't a huge nectar group and they've got 6 of these on the shelf and you're the only one buying them, by the 6th one, that's going to be a much harder bottle to shake than the first one because it sat there and nobody's picked it up in 6 runs.
Yeah.
So
I had that happen with the 7-Eleven. I started getting those gummy lifesavers, and there was like 6 packs of gummy lifesavers, and I tried them, and they were delicious. So I went the next day and got one, and there was 5. The next day there was 4. The next day there was 3, 2, 1, and then none for about 3 weeks.
Yeah.
You think that stuff's rolling through that store. Not necessarily the case.
I do a trick.
Yes.
A lot of I do it with competitor stuff, and I do it for fun, but I'll go and I'll mark labels to see what kind of movement starts with different products. It really helps me decide whether or not I'm going to use that, or buy that, or laugh at the company because they're trying to do that. But I mark products. If you ever pick up a label and on the back there's a check mark, that's fine. I'm counting how many bottles that store sold this year.
It's like
Jerry's and Home Depot all the time.
The music and lyrics movie, I think it's called that, with Hugh Grant. And he was an 80s pop star, and he takes her to the record store, and he's got the CD, and he's like, see, this is the same one that's been here for 5 years. She's like, well, they could have sold it. He said, no, I marked it.
I do.
Nice. So this last question I handpicked
It's a G3T R3KT XM8. And the data is because we haven't talked about SLF 100 in 1,000 years, and that's why I think you get this question.
Somebody owes me money. I'm looking for you, Newton. I'm looking for you, man.
Can I use SLF 100 in living organic super soil? Is this product only for cocoa? No, it's for everything.
Found him.
Nice. He's not wearing a mask.
He's not on federal properties in the ocean.
He's exempt. So
he's by himself fishing. That's what he did yesterday.
So he probably doesn't need a mask if he's by himself on the ocean.
Kills plants. It's like glufosinate. It's straight up Roundup. He sold his soul to Hawthorne, and now they're just kidding. Now they're all any of it. So, can I use SLF in living organic super soil, or is this product only for cocoa? No, SLF is awesome. It can be used in any form. It can be used in cocoa, peat, blends, organic mix. It can be used in
hydro
as a probiotic, as a seedling. You know, if you have seedlings, it's one of the safest things you can water in. A matter of fact, I would, going back to the question, would I feed my plants? I would give them some SLF and maybe Photo Plus or something, like a microbial, to go into the potting soil that's already rich with nutrition, break those down gently, delivering them to the seedling versus putting in a pure digested phosphate. So SLF is it's good for all things. Living soils especially, because more so than the other. Because I'm not Newton, but the reality is Newton's product isn't an enzyme. It's an enzyme by science, but in all reality, it's millions of bacteria forms that are constantly cycling and constantly being born and dying. And, at any one day, and I know I've said this a million times, but he's shown me labs from the same sample over a couple months period of time, and the elevation of these different bacteria during these 6 to 8 week period of time, he would never be able to register that with a guaranteed spore count or propagule count that will say, I have this many trichoderma in here. Because today, he has 6 times that, and tomorrow he'll have half of that because they'll cycle. So when I look at SLF, it is literally like a 1 billion micro probiotic for potting soil. And the nice thing is it does this in your potting soil, where it builds populations and destroys populations, all in the name of nutrition, and they never deplete themselves completely unless you destroy them with a chemical.
So, would you use other microbials in conjunction with SLF 100, or is it the ultimate microbial? No. So you would use...
It's this piece of the pie to the full consortium that you should be looking at to keeping your potting medium nice and healthy, or your garden soil nice and healthy. So, right now we're working at developing with a couple friends of ours some unique nectar microbes that are going to help us work with the porcine we're working with the bovine we're working with the limestone we're working with. We're dealing with a couple well-known names that have been able to help us, and they'll get named, and we'll throw their info on our packaging, because we're not making this stuff. It's something where it's like, I need a clean stream, I need to make sure it's actually working for what we do. I don't want redundancy. I don't need excess. We already have this, so we don't need that. So he's helping me figure out, here are the 3, with Photo Plus in mind, with SLF in mind, with Megaphos in mind, with these other microbial products in mind. We don't want to say, okay, well here's this. You don't need these. We want to get something that we feel we're missing from what we have in SLF and Photo Plus, and there'll be something that you can use in conjunction with if you feel you need it. It's just another way to add in phosphorus and calcium and microbes that are going to be designed to consume what we're based on, not what the industry says we should be based on.
Okay, so when they say phosphorus uptake, this is in a general sense of across everything, whereas you're trying to tailor this to the calciums you're using in the feed.
Yeah, that's it. And it'll be in. Like ours will be bedded in porcine meal, a soluble porcine. So as soon as the microbes wake up, they're immediately digesting down, high phosphorus pig bones. And that just becomes an instantaneous feed, and then they start colonizing immediately. You know, everyone's still asking us, what about your mycorrhiza? We're never doing a mycorrhiza. Just so you know. There's too many mycorrhizas out there. There's 2 I really recommend to anybody.
It's handled. And there's no reason. I mean, if you can't make a unique difference, something you can do that no one else can, I don't know why you'd bother to do it.
No, and it's already been done well by others. You know, between you know, Bigfoot with they're one of the true founders of mycorrhiza back in the day. The Amaranthus family's still attached to that. Zach's the boy, and Dan Meekum. I mean, that guy just, bless his heart, just a hardcore
warrior for their products.
So bless his heart, that guy.
Road dog. Just
no. And they have great products, and then you got Green Grow out there, who's Coast Bio. They make amazing microbials. Yeah. They make great dry goods. They make good meals. You know, if I was going all super soil, I'd be using One Shot and probably their Earth Shine, because I think there's plenty of everything in all of that.
Handled with it, yeah.
There's your mycorrhiza. These guys already know it. They make them. Nobody else is making their mycorrhizas. Everybody's just putting them in bags. I don't even want to make the microbial, but in discussing this with this individual, he's like, man, you guys are missing the boat. And not because here's sales. We don't give a shit about the
not the money. It's the distinction you can make with.
Well, and he started tuning in more to our alkalinity conversations, and here's this. It's just because we're not schmucks, and he's not a schmuck, and these guys aren't schmucks. We're all getting together, and we all compete against each other in this industry, but we're all talking to each other, going, "Hey, so one of my customers is using this of yours. This is what the problem is. If we do this, we troubleshoot together, and we come up with these solutions." So we are now fast tracking this through. It's been in a year of development. We've been, everything we do, we play with.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that this one gets released sometime this summer. We're really trying to get Chimera done. Circe's finished into the finish line. Our bags are starting to go to print for our 4-shot. So it's like, all right, things are starting to occur there. And once those are solid and foundational, then we'll move over to the microbial.
Pushing a rock up a hill, you can't push 2 rocks up a hill.
Or 4.
Yeah.
Then we just found a new artist that's helping us out, which is, he's been fun to work with.
Is that the picture behind you?
Oh, yeah, he did that thing right there. That's Pig, Frank, me, and Bob. You just sent that.
When I had my cool haircut instead of now.
No, less homelessy beard.
Nice. Yeah, I noticed he kind of trimmed you up a little bit. I noticed that the beards. So I don't know what my beard would be if I grew it, but I think it'd be more like Frank's. It seems like it just kind of curves under and just stays there, whereas yours gets all Duck Dynasty out.
Well, Frank's looks like Papa Smurf right there.
It does. Nice.
I love Pig looks like a frickin' 70s cop. Like he should be chasing the bandit behind the dad.
It's like Kojak's partner.
In Texas.
That's awesome.
Missouri.
Respect my authority.
Yeah, no, so I don't know where we derailed there.
No, we were done, I think, is for the most part. But that's fascinating with the micro thing.
Microbials and the new artwork. What we are looking for then, and so we already have a winner on the Chimera. I just sent him a bunch of free Chimera because he's like, tell me you use Chimera. Like, well, we did, but you didn't draw the art, so here's free Chimera, free nutrients. But we are looking for 2 new names. They don't necessarily have to be gods or goddesses, but it could be an action of the Greek world, or but basically
something that fits. Use your imagination.
One's going to grow, and one's going to be a bloom in the sense. One's going to be more nitrogen fixing. One will be more phosphorus fixing. We're not coming out with any mycorrhizas or any of that. So just 2 different microbial packs that will be offered for veg and bloom.
And these are a dry thing, or is that a secret?
Be a dry powder, bedded in bone meal. They'll have a little bit of mineral powder in there. The 3 different forms, some yucca. And some, we're talking to him right now, we're going to see how it all blends, but there might be some paramagnetism in there as well to kind of aid that for folks who don't use our potting soil.
Okay.
So we're just playing with what he has. We'll just play with it, but we need names. So when I have names, then I can give it to our new artist he only takes minutes. So once we have a good name, that kid will build an art on his phone in 2 minutes, and we'll be able to move forward fast.
So 4-shot. Are we getting closer, or where are we at on that?
And well, you know, we're about to just cheat and just say whatever. Pennsylvania doesn't. Their idea of a non-plant food and Michigan's idea of a non-plant food and California's idea of a non-plant food don't all match. So we're literally sitting here in limbo on what's the verbiage going to be used, or which state are we not going to sell it to. And I think Pennsylvania's just going to lose, even though we sell mostly into Pennsylvania through one of our distributors who redistributes from there. I don't care. It's just going to have to be that way.
Well, you know, when you go to Utah and you get yourself a Budweiser, you could drink 30 cases of that and not even feel it. Because it's different everywhere because of all the different rules, and that's not very practical to something like what we're doing here.
No, well, and if you're, the smaller you are in this industry, so if you're not a huge company in this industry, you get to stand in the long little kid line to try to figure out how to register your crap all across this country, where other companies can be like, so I got this product, it gives you cancer, we're not going to say that, but we are going to say that it grows 20 times the volume and... Okay.
Can we work that out? Yes, we can.
So, you know, I think we've all witnessed in the last few years that everybody gets to play at a different rule.
Yeah.
We play on the poor man rule. We have to play by the rules that have the most rules.
Yeah, well, people are worried about socialism. We have socialism, but the citizens are corporations. Literally, they're in a socialist society. They don't fail, and they get propped up.
Oh, and they get bailouts when they fail because they suck and they're too stupid to succeed. So here's more failure money.
Well, why would you be careful if you have a backstop? You know, they just go for it.
Can you imagine what would happen if I had that?
Swinging for the fences every time.
Dead people.
So there. On that note,
I love ya.
You're making fun of me.
No, it's the reality. Wait, Scott just said there'd be a lot more dead people if he had a backstop to make sure. I don't know. Might be some shady stuff.
Just trim a little fat off the ethics there, we'll be fine.
So this is the new Chimera.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Hey, what is this, like a cow and a pig animal? You invented your own animal?
Cow, pig, and limestone feet.
Nice. Feet of lime.
Huh?
Feet of lime.
Feet of lime.
Feet of lime they are.
And he did that on an iPhone.
Did you see that thing I sent you? That crazy, you know, the guy that makes the comic strips. He's got this.
That was spam. I didn't watch it.
No.
I thought it was like a bad link that was going to give me some weird training.
Oh, no. It's this, you know, Dilbert?
Yeah.
He's got this thing, and it looks like a monitor, but it's like laying flat like this, like a drafting board. And then you just draw on it with a pencil, and it draws directly on it with Photoshop. It's crazy.
Huh.
Yeah. I guess we could have this conversation without talking to everyone else.
Well, now other people probably go look it up.
Yeah, it's Scott Adams, the Dilbert guy, just happened to cross it, and he's got this, it's like a little drafting board that's a computer. And that's how he draws his cartoons. He just draws them right on there directly, sends it out.
I think that's what this kid's doing on his iPhone.
Well, that's what I'm saying. You get him that bigger thing, that's probably a good idea. He could actually do some higher resolution.
Gosh.
He's amazing. Well, he did the thing behind you, didn't he? Is that the same guy?
That?
Yeah, same guy.
He did that on his iPhone. No, it's just filters and stuff. But I mean, that's a well thought out.
Oh yeah, it's like Mount Rushmore. It's awesome.
Us all, he made it work.
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like a freaking Queen album cover.
It does, doesn't it?
And so I'm just like, I'm excited because I'm going, man, finally somebody who can take the original art and start to... I mean, remember when we tested this kid? We're like, hey, can you make Herc and who was it? Herc and... Is it Triton or somebody hanging out at a barbecue? And so we just drew up that picture in a couple seconds and they're just like...
I remember. That's awesome.
I'll pull them up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm excited because it's just nice to...
Well, it's been a thing. It's been like you can't release the product because you don't have a friggin' label for it. It's the dumbest thing in the world. And the compromises we've made on stuff as far as like putting stuff out because we just, you know... Boy. Because someone just couldn't deliver.
Yeah, how many pieces have gone out gone, I hate her face, but you know what? It needs to go to market.
It's got to go, yeah.
Not selling labels. Here's one, let's see. Oh, there's this. I'm impressed. I can never find his stuff.
Yeah.
Here's his bowl.
It's in there, you got to scroll through all your nudies.
Well, no, it's an email thread.
Oh, I got you. It's not in your pictures. You should save them to your pictures on your phone whenever you get them, so that you got them there.
Yeah, that doesn't work either.
Oh,
that's like
all your nudes.
Well, no, that's another phone. That one doesn't have a chip in it.
Yeah. You don't want to have that getting out. You don't want to get fappened.
Yeah, I'll find him.
All right.
We'll
well,
see
next
a lot
time.
more from him. I have a lot of hope from this guy. I think he's going to be a long-time designer for us. Because he finally is one of the few people that's given me hope to we can do an ad, which we've never done.
Well, the website would be nice if it didn't suck. If the have him draw the website. Hey,
thanks for doing our website, Bob, but it sucks. You know how many emails I get today? You're reading this because I got to your website, and it sucks. My name is Cheryl.
I could do better. Anyone could do better.
Dude, I'm not... We don't sell off the website. Yeah. It's not a platform for us to do any selling off it. We're not a normal company. We don't care about how flashy our website is because we don't operate it. I think I went to it twice last year.
Yeah. Well, no, every once in a while we find a typo or add a new client to the store finder.
Yeah. Well, we get more of those, but we don't even have to go to the website for that. You just come in the back door and punch them in. So maybe that's what we do. Hey, Cole, when you see this, brush up on your web skills because we're going to have you redo the that's something we can do.
Yeah.
I can put him on payroll.
That would be awesome.
Piece right now, but now he's got some tools coming to him. He's got some new tools heading his way that it should be able to... well, he's the one, remember the video? Did you ever see his video?
Yes, that was awesome. We should put that on here.
My problems in my garden, and he said,
"Yeah, he's got some chops. Maybe you can put me out of work." I gotta pick up my game.
Better step up, Bob.
He's coming for me.
The downfall is a little far away from here.
Yeah, a little tough.
You're down the road. He's 20 states east, so not going to work out for me. But he's a talented guy.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of potential, and what I'm seeing already, I just hope he sticks around with us for a while.
No, that's cool. I was going to say, we got hundreds of questions. I mean, they're just good questions. So I guess we just need to do this more often and get through some of those,
Yeah, we do.
Because I was blown away. There was 100 questions on our one video, the comeback video. Or not questions, but comments.
So mean ones too. That one guy, it's up.
You know what it is? You know the YouTube Up Next? Have you heard of this?
Oh yeah.
We're on the Up Next now because we're getting big enough that they're thinking we might actually be something, and so we start getting people that are just randomly coming in.
Oh no, he's an old timer.
Oh yeah.
For a while, we pissed him off a few times. It is what it is.
Yeah.
My mom always told me can't make all of them like you.
You're doing something wrong if you do. You're kiss ass.
Well, you're lying to a lot of people. Everybody loves you. Or you're the Antichrist, and I don't trust you either way. So enjoy that.
All right. That's a good show, I think.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Enjoy your weekend.
The OCGFAM show. It's pretty good. It happens every day. It's the OCGFAM show. See you tomorrow.